McNamara is going to pressure him all the way down to La Source. A big grid of drivers keen to make an impression on the new season has them almost at a standstill at turn 1 La Source hairpin, and it has at least one driver around as 3 wide, 4 wide leads to the inevitable. A side-by-side battle towards Eau Rouge and Radion for the race lead on the opening lap as Jordan Ross hold his nerve and Sean McNamara look to drop in behind.
Okay, very sorry for that, everyone, but hopefully now we're in a semblance of things being where they should be. And, well, looks like we've got some bug squashing to do, but thank you for sticking with us, folks. Hope you're looking forward to the season to come here. After not being 100% certain if we'd be back this season, we certainly are indeed. Good to be here with us, and I'll keep working, David, as we watch this opening lap unfold.
So everyone in the top 5 holding their place so far. Ken Latta jumping up, though, from 8th on the grid into 6th. Dan Hall also a lightning getaway from 13 into 3rd. A few drivers dropping spots. I'm going to guess that it might have been Mark Poynton or Andrew Rushworth who are around at La Source. For every winner, there is a loser, and for every gainer, there's someone who drops some positions, not inside of the top 5, but in some of the spots further back. Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps famous for really high speeds in Sector 1 and Sector 3, but as they negotiate the middle of the lap, it's consistent medium speed, grip-limited corners with the change of direction through Lafonia here. This is the part of the track that eats up the tyres, even on a beautiful morning like it is right now. 22 degrees Celsius on the track. You've still got long loads and corners putting heat into the tyres, wearing out the tyres, and Jordan Ross getting the tail to slide just a little bit as he comes off Stavelot corner and punches the run towards Blanchimont. Another full commitment corner for these kind of cars. A tap of the brake, maybe a downshift to pitch the car into that high speed, high stakes corner before we've got the biggest braking zone of the lap at the bus stop chicane to complete the first of 36 laps. We've remained green to this point, and so past this point, the compulsory pit stop window opens next time around. Other gainers on that first lap, Travis Hunt up 7, Ben Morris up 3, John Gallen up 7 spots, Matthew Brunt gaining 5. Move on for third place, Scott Gamble versus Wayne Walker, and before they even get to the braking zone at the end of the Kemmel Straight, Gamble moves ahead. Quite a few drivers actually picking up slowdown penalties from having cut the top of the hill at Radion. So Steve Kennedy, David Kirby, Stacey Boyd, all giving up slowdown penalties on the Kemmel Straight. And that certainly is a little mistake of track limits that can cost you big time. Potentially the kind of thing that could play out between Gamble and Walker there, or maybe Walker was just a little more conservative with the track limits and Scott Gamble got a run at him. Either way, Jordan Ross leading this one from Sean McNamara, with a bit of a group beginning to form 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th through this next section. Long right-hand tyres loaded through Huon.
Just crashed.
And the safety car gets called for crash here on lap 2. Now the compulsory pit stop window will have opened as we stayed green on lap 1. Expecting to see a lot of these drivers race around to the pit lane. This is a Grand Prix configuration of Circuit Spa-Francorchamps, not the endurance or the classic pits. So it is a 72-kilometre-an-hour pit lane speed limit, and it's the one that you're used to seeing from F1. This is the incident that has brought out the safety car. 2 heavily damaged cars going nowhere. One of them looking like John Gallen. The other one is newcomer to Split 1 of RaceKraft V8 Vets. Jim Caparonis has been promoted into the top split, but this debut race has not gone the way that he would have wished for. Not everyone leaping for pit lane, somewhat to my surprise. Jordan Ross stays out, Sean McNamara stays out, but Wayne Walker and Scott Gamble from 3rd and 4th have jumped in. So Paul Young, Scott Mackay, Logan Barnett also stay out. I'd say about 2/3 of the field is coming in. And if you're at the back half of the field, I think you lose nothing from taking a stop now. But there's a few, like Jordan Ross, that obviously value their track position and have stayed out and been caught behind the safety car. So as they were on track 3rd and 4th, Scott Gamble has beaten Wayne Walker out of the pit lane. Scott Gamble's the highest running driver to have made a pit stop just now underneath the safety car. 13 seconds means that's enough time to take all 4 tyres and then also a little bit of extra fuel. 10 seconds is the tyre changing time. 13 means that it was a stop that has brimmed the tank, and therefore the tyre change would have been basically free to go with it. Gives a lot of flexibility to the strategy now for everyone that has stopped, which is basically 18th down to 40th. So a little bit less than 2/3 of the field. Barely only half of the field making a stop. Safety car currently leading the field at about 80 to 100 k's an hour around this 7-kilometre circuit, collecting the whole train of drivers, including, looks like the drivers that went through pit lane have just caught the tail of the group as well. So that's always the trade-off with a safety car pit stop this early in the race, is you do cost yourself a lot of track position. What you don't lose is a whole lot of time. Scott Gamble's only 12 seconds behind the race leader, but having already cleared one of his compulsory pit stops and already taken about 13 seconds of fuel. So then he has to hope that from now till when everyone in front of him makes their first stop, he doesn't lose too much time in and amongst that traffic. Well, Jordan Ross, in the lap and a half that we were green, clearly demonstrated the pace that he has with clean air on the nose of his Synergy Sim Racing Ford Mustang. Sean new season of Split 1 of RaceKraft V8 Vets clicks over onto lap 4 of the Stavolo 250 behind the safety car after a lap 2 incident at the end of the Kemmel Straight. Top 16 cars haven't stopped behind this safety car. Everyone from 17th back has. Second time past the pit lane, you've actually had Stephen Clark, Greg Sharp, a few others jump for pit lane that were in the safety car train and didn't stop the first time around. So it's going to be a split strategy race between your top 16 and 17th on back. Jordan Ross leading him. Safety car will come in at the end of this lap and get green flag racing again at Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps for RaceKraft V8 Vets. I'll take this opportunity right now to say some of the things we would normally say off the top of the broadcast. Like, it's great to be back for a new season of RaceKraft V8 Vets. SimSpeed TV bringing you Split 1 this season, and the series and the broadcast brought to you by RaceKraft, LGC Images, Logitech G, Nova Sim Sports, Player One Sim Gear, Parramatta Isuzu Ute, and SudSpeed. This is a recap of the settings and the race for tonight. 36 laps is just over 250 kilometers. 75% of those laps must be completed to be a classified finisher in the official results. We started with 80 liters of fuel, and with a maximum tank size of 93, that's what a lot of the drivers who stopped under the safety car will have brimmed up to, 93.1 liters, 70% of the normal tank. Typical fuel burn around here is pretty significant, with a lot of time on throttle and a long lap of longer than 7 kilometers. Circuit Spa-Francorchamps is longer than Mount Panorama Circuit Bathurst, but it is not taller. More elevation change at Bathurst. So the total fuel drop looking at about 115 litres, 2 compulsory stops. That compulsory stop window opened at the end of lap 2, and quite a few drivers took it. Critical lap for the second stop, looking like it's 19 to 20. Be restarting at the end of this lap. I'd love the zoom wall if we've got it. So a great look at a lot of our drivers racing tonight. Luke Allman, SimSpeed, hey, that's us. Sandman, Stephen Clark joining the top split of RaceKraft V8 Vets. David Kirby, Dan Hall, Dean Flavel, Scott Gamble, Jeff Thomas all returning. Same for Travis Hunt, Damien Cairns, Jonathan Gallen, Sean McNamara, Wayne Walker, Greg Sharp, Christian Smart, and Ken Latter. The Dino behind the safety car dropping down to 95.96. Soon, when Jordan Ross takes control of the field, the safety car pulls away and we get green flag racing again. No doubt that is going to jump up as RaceKraft V8 Vets roars back into life. And so, again, recapping the end of last season as we get ready to go racing again. Jordan Ross is your reigning champion, and he's out front right now, but he hasn't taken either his compulsory pit stops. Everyone 17th and back in the field has. That's where the strategy lies, with 32 laps remaining when we restart, as we will shortly, for the Stavelo 250 from Circuit Spa-Francorchamps. Sean McNamara in the Chevy Camaro watching very closely at Jordan Ross and how he'll choose to restart this one. So safety car's just in the pit lane. So Jordan Ross, it's all at his fingertips and underneath his right foot how we get going. A few of the drivers that have stayed out and gained a whole heap of track position. Chad Lewis up 10, Mark Poynton up 10, Chris Miller up 15, Michael Whiting up 18. Those drivers inside of the top 10 aiming for track position. We're racing again. Jordan Ross flies out of the bus stop chicane, opens up lap 5, 32 still to go. He needs to bolt like a greyhound right now to put time between himself and everyone who has stopped, has taken fuel, and has cleared one of their compulsory pit stops. Decent start too, also almost clears the slipstream on Sean McNamara, who needed to stay close but hasn't been able to. Over the top of Radion, it's that left-hander there where a lot of the drivers are picking up slowdown penalties. Got to keep some tyre on the curb, can't end up entirely on the tarmac. Logan Barnett's fallen the wrong way of that. He's got a furled black flag waving his way. The driver currently in 5th. See how much time that costs him on a restart like this? It's costing him a lot of time. I think about 1.5 seconds lost by Logan Barnett because of that little error, and he still hasn't cleared the flag yet. Stephen Clark, the Sandman, has also picked one up. That's something to watch. These V8 supercars, we had this all the time. We have had it at Montreal, for example, where the track limits are the white lines and they're set in stone for every class of racing. But these cars, our Australian supercars, love to climb all over the curbs more than a Formula 3 car does, more than other cars do, and it can get you in trouble. Looking back at Barnett, he's now lost 2 spots because of that slowdown. Chad Lewis moves ahead of him. Mark Poynton moves into 6th. So it is a super costly mistake if you can't keep the car between the white lines at the top of Radion, the most famous, most picturesque, and perhaps most challenging corner of this racetrack in any car, but now especially in these, with track limits very rigidly enforced. Here is Barnett, now in behind Mark Poynton and Chad Lewis, that both got by him as he served that slowdown, or as he'd lost momentum while serving that slowdown. Blanchimont they go. A corner where you need to be careful with the track limits to not rack up too many off tracks, not many slowdowns in the exit there. The driver's definitely sort of taking a bit of brake, a bit of a downshift to get through there. The lap completed, and it's going to be a new fastest lap of the race for Jordan Ross, now bolting 1.3 seconds, 1.4 seconds clear of Sean McNamara. The 2:22.9 is exactly the pace on those cool tyres with lighter fuel that Jordan Ross is going to need to do. Still only 11.5 seconds between him and Scott Gamble, highest running driver that did stop and take fuel. And working through the traffic with Gamble is Wayne Walker and Ken Latta, 3 drivers that, if their strategy is the correct one, could end up being the podium. Race Control have given a drive-through penalty to John Gallen. We saw his damaged car involved with Jim Caparonis. So whatever transpired there, Race Control have given a penalty to John Gallen. This is the group of drivers that have made their compulsory stop already. Gary Buckland, though, has not yet. Scott Gamble's gone past Buckland. Now Wayne Walker and Ken Latta are in behind him. That's sort of black and red for Buckland. Wayne Walker in the same livery we saw him last year. Ken Latta in the same Fishy Motorsports livery that we saw him in last season, I should say, which was still this year, 2025. But it feels like a new year because it's a new season, even though we get through a couple per year in RaceKraft V8 Vets. Latta started out at 8th on the grid, so to be 3rd of the cars on this strategy, if it's the right strategy, he might shake out with a lot of gains, still staying just in behind Wayne Walker, but through the twisty middle section of the lap, through corners like Lafanya, Campus, Stavilo, not making a whole lot of gains. Might need to wait for big braking zones like the bus stop or the Source, or at the end of the Kemmel Straits towards Malmedy. Good run towards Blanchimont for Wayne Walker, tucked up underneath the rear wing. Really dare to think about a move to the inside. The sensible thing is to get a good run through here and try to use your braking prowess into the bus stop. Walker looks to the inside of the bus stop, gets alongside, and he'll get up there. Ken Latta also wants a piece of that. Don't think he's far enough alongside, now forced to go around the outside of the second segment. He puts himself in a slightly compromised position, trying to follow Wayne Walker through. That's a good gain for Wayne Walker, but now Steve Kennedy's between Gamble and him, and Gamble might grab another one there. So Gamble's still trying to cut through this field and doing a very good job. 13 seconds behind Jordan Ross, the race leader, with a little bit of clean air on his nose. Look at that dramatic elevation change from this perspective. Up Radion we go, and you can't cut that left-hander at the top. And he doesn't. Race Control giving a penalty to Ray Smith as well. So they're right back on being the strict headmasters in season 24. Scott Gamble just passing 270 kilometers an hour before needing to take the brakes into this sequence of corners, staying tight on the exit of the left to open up Malmedy, carry as much speed as possible, then into a downhill and elongated braking zone to Rivage, turning in early apex, breathe it in the middle, head towards a late apex. A couple of other drivers looking to move forward here. David Nash on that same strategy as Scott Gamble, now fourth on that strategy as he moves past Steve Kennedy, who I think got absolutely mugged. Wayne Walker, Ken Latta, and David Nash have all gone past him since La Source.
I better join you now, David, to the rest of the comms and give you a chance to take a moment. Where do we want to have a look at here? Because we do have some packs forming up and down this order at this stage.
Chad Lewis in fifth is where I'd head back up to, because we know Logan Barnett's got pace. It was a little mistake that dropped him back into seventh. So this is all some really quick drivers here that need to do the same thing Jordan Ross is doing, which is bolt away, because otherwise they've got 2 compulsory pit stops to take under green flag, while the drivers behind them only have 1 remaining.
That's a very good point to make there indeed. That strategy games here tonight are going to be pretty valuable. Well, not just valuable, very important, I think is the way to put it mildly. And looking at it here right now as well, to me definitely feels like a case of, yeah, the drivers in this group who haven't stopped but haven't pushed away as far, yeah, they're the ones in trouble here at this point, considering margin back to Scott Gamble is 6 seconds maybe. Not quite.
Yeah, Gamble's cutting through the field in his last lap at 2:24.888. It's quicker than the 2:25 that this group of drivers have been doing. Barnett's looking to get a spot back here on Mark Poynton. Frog Leap Juice Driver, I think, has moved from a Mustang to a Camaro. And that's a move made perfectly by Logan Barnett as he moves back into 6th. Stephen Grumley's got to slow down. It's always interesting to watch as the field goes past Radion. Almost every lap, someone gets one. I think Stephen Grumley might be arguing that he got forced out there. Didn't pick up everything happening on the radio, but Grumley certainly was way out and losing a bunch of positions this time around. But Grumley's on the radio right now. Not say anything to race control other than what's strictly necessary in the format required, saying lap 8, Eau Rouge, please look at that race control. And they say copy, they will. So he thinks he's been forced wide, maybe lost a couple of positions. Luckily for him though, he is one of the drivers who stopped under safety car, took 13 seconds of service. And so while it says 31st position next to him right now, there are about 15, 16 drivers ahead of him. Still 2 stops. That says 11, but mine definitely says 13 for the pits box time.
Okay, then how's this then for comparison? If we jump up the order to someone like Scott Gamble, what does your pit
13.1.
Scott Gamble? Interesting, because mine says quite the different story. Although that may be a me thing, not necessarily accurate at this stage of the race. Dan Hall, unfortunately, next driver with a black flag next to his name on the tower.
Looks like stuff happening around 5th place there. Barnett's back into 5th, so he's moved past Mark Poynton. He's trying to move past Chad Lewis. I think we're going to have a very tense moment here. Chad Lewis is now just back ahead. And Barnett drops in behind through Eau Rouge. Radion here, always watching those track limits. It's tyres on the curb that you need. And it's a great run from Barnett. Is there a side draft on offer on the Kemmel Straight? They are both punching a massive hole in the air for everyone behind. Barnett's trying to come across on Chad Lewis. Barnett's going to need to brake later to go around the outside of him into 5th if possible. Chris Miller and Michael Whiting battling over 8th and 9th. nearly unbelievably, that group of drivers are now 11 seconds behind Jordan Ross. Wayne Sanderson's got a group of drivers behind him. New looking livery, I think, for Jeff Thomas. And then Luke Allman, Matty Mascord, a new driver to top split of RaceKraft V8 Vets. And then David Kirby behind. Had a slowdown on the straight this lap. Every lap it's someone. It's like getting selected for the draft. It's not like winning the lottery. So Kirby was the one who had to slow down and give up the time gained on the Kemmel Straight this time around. It's Thomas with Allman behind, Mascord behind that. I'd say every driver but Kirby in this group stopped under safety car. So for David Kirby to lose those positions and also be a strategy disadvantage to these drivers is going to be tough to swallow. The reverse side of that coin is it's a big win for these drivers as Allman in the kink before Blanchimont wanted to put his nose in. There's very rarely actually a car width there. You see a bit of damage for Jeff Thomas, and Mascord tries to go around the outside of both of them. He's going to try to outbrake 3 wide into the bus stop. Mascord down the inside. Jeff Thomas the meat in the sandwich. Luke Allman using the swap back to try to stay in it, and you've got a driver around behind. Who's dropping spots? Christian Smart is.
Yeah, it was Stephen Crowley for a moment. Oh no!
Oh no!
As he goes for the pit lane. It's going to get Jim Caparonis out of position. You've got Gary Buckland trying to limp back with a whole host of damage. And to put it mildly,
Andrea is missing bits.
Messy. McDane Cantor was making a move there. Well, off screen, I should say, but driver right behind him. One of the drivers. Also new to split one this season and busy last night, David. Oh, don't go over there. Stephen Sandman Clark, after being more known for
the grass man.
Yeah, apparently that's we might need to update his name there. Unless he opts for the same here through the com. No, and the gravel was off to the right. Then it's the left here at Melbourne too. So I guess, you know, if he wanders out too wide, we might be able to pick that up. But Sandman is one of our many drivers on Zoom here tonight, so we can show him here on screen, folks. So see here, that is a face of concentration, I would suggest.
Yeah, there he is at work. He's laser focused in search of the apexes. There's your fan service. How about a bit of Dino Dyno, because it was down at 95 BPM under safety car. I suspect it's gone back up.
Yeah, it's definitely gone up. Would we like to play Guess the Dyno before I put it up on screen?
Yes, 100 and... well, he's not got a whole lot of traffic, 110.
All right, then. Folks, anyone else want to get their Dino Dyno votes in before I put this up on screen? Then again, it is an ever-fluctuating number, so take your pick, and hopefully you're at the right point in time when it happens. But Mr. Haynes' guess of 110, well, for a moment there, it was spot on, and it said you just decided to jump up away on him as I actually flicked to it. I promise I wasn't waiting for the moment you were wrong, David. You were right, and I was going to honour that.
Dino making his 195th V8 Vets start. He's got the 4th most starts behind Darren Goosey, Scott McCune and Stephen Kennedy. So that heart has got a whole lot of ticker. It's done a whole lot of work across a whole lot of races. And another one for him today in season 24. This is Barnett. Oh, he's dropped another bunch of spots again. I wonder if that's been the track limits once more. He was battling with Chad Lewis. He got up into 5th, I did think, but now he's back behind Chad Lewis, Mark Poynton, and now even Chris Miller just ahead of Michael Whiting. And it must be said, for the big picture, only just ahead of Scott Gamble as well. So Gamble is 18 seconds away from the lead, but now far and away the best placed driver on this strategy, having already made one compulsory pit stop, having already put fuel in that'll take him a bit deeper into this race as well. We had lap, 18 to 20 as the critical lap number?
Yep, 19 to 20 based on your fuel burn around here tonight. So you work it back from there, you're looking at 16 to 17 laps on the tank. So with a safety car and also with a really lengthy lap here, I'd say the drivers who've stayed out in this race so far tonight, look to see them maybe go as far as lap 18. I reckon they can get 2 laps. I reckon they've saved a whole bunch of fuel under the safety car. And maybe if they're a little conservative right now as well, that'll do its part, David. So saying that though, Scott very much still in a good spot and utilising it. There's a new penalty comes in. Justin McLean just picked up a black flag from race control.
I think I heard something about safety car procedures. So either passing under safety car, going too fast under safety car, on the restart maybe passing before the line or wherever the marcated safety car line is, going to be something like that. Chris Miller and Michael Whiting in for their first stops. After 12 laps, we ride on board with Scott Gamble, and that clears a bit of the way for him. He's now up into 9th, and it suits him well. I wonder what kind of speeds he'll get to the end of the Kemmel Straight. Also, the inputs are heading up the hill. Needs to drop a fair bit of speed to make the corner. And then we're accelerating again. So this is no F1 car, no GT3. Takes a fair bit to muscle these cars through Eau Rouge and Radion and then back up to speed. Tiny bit of slipstream past 270 k's an hour. Let's pretend. Let's do the Mark Scaife and say that he hit 300 k's an hour.
Yes, that's one you like to bring out whenever we get near the mountain, isn't it, David? The fact that it's the long-storied and supposed peak speed of these cars, which we don't see these days, and haven't seen for quite some time.
The bit that gets me is they're so stupidly quick at corners like that I feel like it doesn't need embellishment. And when they do actually have the data next to it that proves that, no, it's not really 300 kilometers an hour. It's only, 280, 290 something at an incredibly stupid fast corner. Like, the embellishment is what gets me. A couple more penalties coming through. And I suspect that'll be the story. It was a relatively messy start. And then also there's a couple of new faces as well, and all of that.
Well, I think I heard that one right. Well, I'm going to trust that I heard what I heard from the race control team over the radio. But David Nash's drive-through penalty at least. It's specifically for not holding brakes that he was involved in, as safety car driver's been in his pit box for quite some time apparently. Well, that's good to know, but we don't particularly care for that.
Basically a green flag time counter at this point. A few more drivers stopping. Everyone who didn't stop under safety car is actually starting to get towards the end of their starting fuel as well. So Mark Poynton and Logan Barnett are in. Bit of a battle happening back there. Wayne Walker and Ken Latta, who have stopped, catching Ben Morris, who hasn't, another newcomer this season. So he's got plenty happening in his mirrors right now. Does Ben Morris, with Walker and Latta just behind. And we've seen Walker be quite aggressive in the way that he's making his moves to get through, which is right with the strategy that he's got. He's got that extra fuel, he's got that pit stop time, but he's got to muscle his way through. So he can't get bogged down too much in this traffic. Gets a good run through Radiano. We're all mowing the grass. What is this? The top split of the GT3 race. Oh, Morris comes across to try to squeeze Walker, and there'll be a bit of contact between them before the braking zone into Lecombe. Walker goes ahead, second place of the cars on the Scott Gamble strategy, with Ken Latta being the third. Gamble is just up the road from them now.
And yeah, good point. The difference between what you can put in the tank at just over 93 litres versus what you started with on the fixed setup, so being 80 litres, and the fact you're burning, while you are burning over 5 litres a lap around here, David, in these cars, what that does mean is that's still nearly 3 laps of margin. So yeah, I said they can do 16, 17 on a tank, so yeah, 13 would be about out of fuel, I'd say then. So maybe look for those who are really pushing this opening starting field of 14, maybe 15 laps here.
And if you stay out too long and a safety car were to happen now, you'd end up pretty cooked if you haven't made your first stop by the time a second safety car comes out and everyone else gets a free stop. You're in even more trouble. So it's not just how long does the starting field go, but how exposed are you to the possibility of another safety car on your strategy if you haven't made either of your compulsory pit stops yet. Ask Mercedes at Monaco, for example, about what happens if you don't clear your 2 compulsory pit stops and there's a bit of traffic. Tiny bit of contact there between... Oh, more than a tiny bit of contact in the final corner. Scott Gamble trying to go past Stacey Boyd, I believe. Boyd in a tough spot. Chad Lewis pits, but your race leader stays out. The Dino Dino is in the lane.
Well, thankfully, Stacey back going once again in the right way. But yes, that's just a little something there to upset the rhythm at this stage of the race, and now probably put Scott Gamble in a bit of hot water here tonight for that one as a result. Where are our battles at on the track? We've got possible battle to brew here on track for 19th place. Yes, but Sean van der Meulen looking to hunt down David Kirby here. Now, important to note here, Kirby has not stopped in this race yet, whereas van der Meulen has. So this is again that differing strategy play at hand so far. And van der Meulen's got the run, David, up towards Lecom, and he's going to take that place away. It looks like under brakes.
Yes, indeed. Textbook for van der Meulen to move into 19th, that says. Yep. Now, you might be saying van der Meulen's made a stop. I've got this as van der Meulen served a drive-through, but not made a compulsory pit stop.
Oh, interesting. I've got him as having stopped twice in this race, and the last time was for service. Well, at least he stationary stopped in his box. That's the last stop data I have. Then again, maybe I'm not a good number to, or maybe I don't have good data tonight to go off of. So I'm more than happy to go with what you've got as well. But I guess we might have to wait and see how this plays out.
No, maybe you're right. Because, well, it doesn't give me a pit stop time. It also doesn't give me a lane time for a drive-through. It gives me a lane time with no box time, like for Dan Hall there. Finds himself just behind Jeff Thomas and Andrew Rushworth. Scott Mackay pits, leaving us with just 5 drivers that haven't made a stop. You can tell them from the timing column where they have no last pit stop lap. So Jordan Ross, Sean McNamara, Paul Young, Stacey Boyd. Scott Gamble, leader of the compulsory pit stop under safety car strategy, has a drive-through penalty for the contact with Stacey Boyd. Could be the way that I was seeing it, the net race leader, but now has a penalty. It elevates Wayne Walker to what I would have thought is net race leader, but there's now 25 seconds between Jordan Ross and Wayne Walker, 5 seconds between Jordan Ross and Sean McNamara, 7 seconds between Jordan Ross and Paul Young. Making a real impact in his first race in Split 1 is Paul Young. So, pace not too dissimilar to Jordan Ross. Qualified 5th, runs 3rd for the moment.
And he's got two. Well, I can't really call Jordan, who's back-to-back season champ, a veteran of vets just yet, but certainly made his mark in rapid succession. I'm sure McNamara, who's been here and around the block in vets a couple of times, has come and gone a bit depending on the seasons and what's up with him and what he's doing elsewhere in the world. So, by the looks of things, he's going to put a good foot down to start season 24 with a second place position at the moment in this opening phase of the races. Lap 15, we are surely now on the dregs of the opening 80 litres for these front runners here. And yet Jordan Ross is crawling to a stop, and I think he maybe nearly hit the drums on the way into the pits.
Well, they're all coming in now. Speed limits changed here at Spa in a recent iRacing update. This Grand Prix pits used to be 80 k's an hour. The endurance pits used to be 60. Now they're both 72 kilometers an hour. The pole sitter goes all the way to the end of the lane. So Sean McNamara is going to be just behind him. Paul Young will be a couple of pit stalls earlier. Definitely pit service happening here. Wayne Walker. Yep, this is the advantage of stopping under safety car. They're only just into their pit service there, and Walker's already through and ahead past Ross, McNamara and Young. But these are long stops now for those drivers that are in. Jordan Ross has taken a lot of fuel. His second stop will be short. Wayne Walker's second stop will be longer. But you need to account for the fact that Walker's now race leader with 15 seconds in his back pocket. I don't think there's going to be a 15-second lane time difference at the final stop.
Yeah, let me actually bring up that margin now that J. Ross is up to some sense of speed. Again, folks.
It's about 15 seconds, isn't it? Yeah.
It's right on 15. There you go. So, if the margin holds like this, Wayne Walker's in a prime position to challenge Jordan for the win. Only problem is Jordan had that strong pace there to start the race off. So we await to see whether that will continue here in this middle phase of the race.
Definitely expecting Jordan Ross to be pretty quick right now. Again, it's a question of traffic. So next up is Scott Gamble, who has made one stop and one drive-through. And then a couple of drivers like Troy Stone Street, Matt Van der Kraan, Michael Stewart and Dean Logsdale all stopped under safety car, could run quite a bit deeper through this stint right now, and Jordan Ross will find himself behind them for the moment. Last lap for Wayne Walker, 2:24.9. So his pace is not poor at the moment. Well, about half a second quicker than Ken Latter's last lap. Michael Stewart just dropping a couple spots on the column there. I think Logsdale might have gone past him. They're side-by-side heading to La Source with Logsdale on the inside line. Michael Stewart around the outside, but I think Logsdale's got him. And this is what Scott Gamble and Jordan Ross are looking at. So if you're Jordan Ross and you come up on these two guys side-by-side through the middle of the lap, and you're caught behind them, you could easily lose 2 seconds or so there. And that's the kind of time that could be critical in your long-range strategy battle versus Wayne Walker, where the more time that Jordan Ross takes out of Wayne Walker in this middle stint, the better it looks for Jordan Ross. Wayne Walker with the clean air. Jordan Ross with more fuel in the car, headed to a shorter final stop, but with a lot of traffic in between and 13.5 seconds behind. There's a look at Michael Stewart. He's put the red dot on his map of the greatest racing tracks in the world to show us where Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps is, just between Le Mans and the Nordschleife, which geographically is also correct.
Very good point to make there indeed. I guess there'd be a bit of north-south geography to worry about there, but I guess that's getting into the particulars that maybe aren't necessary to discuss at this point in time, as whilst we'd love to give Michael some more airtime, it would appear that right behind him is where things are heating up. Scott Gamble's got a fresh, tired Jordan Ross looking to really make some track position at this point in the race. And he's still gaining on Wayne Walker as J. Ross. So despite being held up here a bit, this hasn't hurt him in that quest to cut the gap down under 15 seconds for now.
This is where he could lose some of the time. Scott Gamble's probably not going to give him any easy passage because Gamble has already made one of his stops. So it's the advantage that I think Gamble's strategy had. He's lost to the drive-through penalty, but he can still potentially fight out Jordan Ross. Ross is looking to the inside of the bus stop, but won't be able to outbrake him. Now it's time loss zone for Jordan Ross, with Logsdale and Stewart and Gamble just in front. For reference, Jordan Ross's best lap of the race at 2:22.9, just then at 2:25.1, lost a bit of time to Wayne Walker. Now he looks to get down the inside of La Source on Scott Gamble, and he will get better traction. Gamble ends up really in some of the filthy stuff. And that's Sean McNamara through.
Another driver on that long run strategy.
Oh, his former teammate, I think?
Correct, yes. Don't forget, yes, Scott Gamble did have a stint at 95 Sim Sports for a fair while. A couple of Vets seasons is what it ended up being, but returning back to Evolution Racing Team, I think it's the first, which was since season, sorry for getting this wrong, Scott, 16 or 17, I think it was, might have been the last time we saw him in ERT colours. If I've got that horrendous wrong, feel free to correct me at any time, any place, and I'll go quietly take myself into a dark room and beat myself over the head. Task of getting the mental Wikipedia up to date.
Last lap and a half has been advantage Wayne Walker versus Jordan Ross, and now there's a little bit more work for Jordan Ross to do in the middle sector. He's caught Michael Stewart right underneath the rear wing, but passing opportunities are difficult through here, even if your name's Jordan Ross. So he waits behind and costs himself a bit of time. Stewart runs wide through the right-hander, parks it at the apex of the left-hander. And this is what I guess I feared for Jordan Ross, but I think Michael Stewart's now, not letting him go. But still a little bit of a car width wide. Not optimal for Jordan Ross to try to get down the inside of Stavilo, which he will. McNamara will also look to follow. McNamara is on the same strategy as Jordan Ross, and the traffic has helped out Sean McNamara pretty significantly here to catch up and now to follow in his slipstream. Jordan Ross losing about a second on this lap through all of that versus Wayne Walker. The clean air has been very beneficial to Walker on the strategy that he is running. But eventually Jordan Ross looks to work his way through this. The only one left is Dean Logsdale, and then there's a nice bit of clean air for Jordan Ross. And now crossing the halfway point of the race, we're approaching that critical lap number where if Wayne Walker sees a bit of lap traffic or thinks, gee, the new tyres would be very beneficial, approach the point that Wayne Walker could go and gamble his luck as well and make his second stop, have cleared his 2 compulsory pit stops, and maybe fight more directly with Jordan Ross. The lap times are very consistent and very strong from Wayne Walker now as he runs the fuel down. Not seeing a whole lot of tyre drop off really. A 224.7 for Walker is only a tenth away from his personal best. It's all about strategy and gaps and pit stop times in the top 10, but there are many, many great fights throughout the field further down, including 16th place Dan Hall ahead of Travis Hunt, ahead of Matthew Brunt, making his V8 Vets debut. Oh, look at the advantage that Travis Hunt seems to have in the braking zone.
closes up very nicely indeed, but isn't there to make a move this time into that comp. Yeah, on that note about tyres and second stops, I actually would say, yeah, with the next maybe 1 to 2 laps, you can make it home on 19 here if you're a little bit light-footed. Lap 20 to be certain if you're a bit more aggressive on the throttle around this place. But I'd be saying to Wayne Walker, you might want to... I mean, this is the catch-22 though. Go now, and you'll have fresh tyres now to be close to Jordan on the cycle. Speaking of which, he's up the inside. There you go. Through Paul Frere and the Stavler corners. Going to get clear, as will a bit of teammate coordination there. Logsdale doesn't make it very hard for McNamara. But once again, that gap is still holding around 15 seconds. It's going up and down a bit like a yo-yo now, David, as to when Jordan hits clean air line. So this is now his clean air patch. So Walker pits early, gets back to J. Ross's bumper, well, should say ahead of J. Ross in the pit cycle, but then vulnerable at the end. What do you do?
Well, Ken Ladder's doing this strategy though, so he's seen the critical lap number come up, and he's coming in to make his second stop and get all of that done and dusted. Scott Gamble's going to do the same. Michael Stewart's going to do the same. So we hypothesized, would Wayne Walker do it? Well, he hasn't. Troy Stone Street hasn't, but Ken Ladder and a few others behind have. This is the big old train, a mix of strategies in this as well. So you got Dan Hall, who pitted under safety car and then took a drive through, a la Scott Gamble, and he goes up and ahead. Whole bunch of other drivers in the pit lane right now, as you can see. So front ahead of Poynton. Poynton gets a bit of a slide through Radion, but then gets himself on a good line to exit it onto the Kemmel Straight. Kemmel Kink there in the shade of the trees, and then out into the sun, climbing up the hill past the viewer mound. And I'd say braking 50 metres earlier than you do in a GT3. You've got to use all of the early braking boards in this car.
There's a whole lot of, and the lack of ABS and traction control too, but ABS in that particular point really also probably lengthening the brake zones another couple of meters too. There are also big, cumbersome race cars by race car standards as well. Don't forget that. Weighing in the order, I believe, about 1,400 kilos, these things. So there's a bit of mass you've got to get sorted out, and as you can see, they also don't mind a bit of nose up and nose down depending on acceleration or braking, shifting that mass around too, David.
So Wayne Walker from the race leads, headed for pit lane. How much pit stop time does he need is the question that I find myself asking. Some other drivers that have taken their second stops have been sort of in the 10 seconds margin, I'm pretty sure. So knowing that Ross's first stop was 10 seconds, that his first stop was 10 seconds and that Jordan Ross's first stop was 25, anything under 25 seconds I think is a win right now for Jordan Ross. You've got some other battles on track here, hopping the curbs at Blanchimont. Brunt ahead of Poynton. Brunt heads in. Chad Lewis stays out. That's a bit of a wide run there. And stop time for Wayne Walker, 23.5. I think that's competitive. Chad Lewis is looking to the inside. These guys with the other pit stops happening all move up some spots. They still need to make their second stop. Poynton, Lewis and Barnett. Oh, Lewis has to hesitate a little bit to keep within the track limits there. Checked himself up on the exit of Radion, and Logan Barnett, he knows how sour that pill tastes, and he's got a much better run. Now going to have to look around the outside, and in the braking zone, he makes the gain on Chad Lewis. Barnett into 6th behind Mark Poynton, running 5th for the minute. Jordan Ross still just a second ahead of Sean McNamara. Both of those guys are going to need about 10-second pit stops in the time remaining. Pit transit time for a 10-second stop, it's about 25 seconds. Wayne Walker is 38 behind.
Now, actually noting here, Wayne had a 10-second stop under safety car, and he's just done 37 and a half by my numbers. So for Jordan Ross, he did a 25-second stop. Maybe we're looking at more like 20 stationary for him, perhaps, if the numbers all are correct.
So then what do you think? You think Jordan Ross has got this handily, or Wayne Walker's still in it?
I, unfortunately, just don't have a knowledge of the numbers around with fuel for Spa to know. And also, on 37 seconds, that's an assumption everything's gone fine and normal for Wayne as well, that it's a lengthy stop like that and it's all been normal. Maybe still in it.
Ken Ladders was about the same, and Ken Latter was only 1 or 2 seconds behind Wayne on track. So
did two regular front runners from last season, both at similar pit stop times and strategies. You know, that's one.
Ken Ladders ended up with more traffic, though, hasn't he? He's behind Chris Miller and Dean Flavel, who haven't stopped. He's about to be not behind Dean Flavel, who hasn't stopped.
One is a data point. Two is the beginnings of an indication of a pattern. Do I have three? I do have three for some slightly more conclusive evidence.
Troy Stone Street also doesn't want to hang around, having cleared 2 compulsory pit stops, looking to move up through the field, particularly against those that haven't made their stops yet. Always interesting to keep an eye on who has flags waving at them or not every time the whole field goes up the hill. I think we've all worked it out. We're playing tidy. I think the incident limit actually came into play a little bit in the final round of last season at VIR. It's 17 incidents to a drive-through penalty, and then every 15 thereafter. Chris Miller losing some time, drops in behind Ken Latter, has Troy Stone Street all over him.
Looking a little further down the order here, some of the other battles on the circuit. It's not been, well, for Manny Maskell, I should say, sorry. He has completed these 2 pit stops. David Nash, unfortunately, 1 stop, 1 drive-through in this race. And there you go, Sean McNamara from 2nd place to the pit lane here on lap 23. So he's not going to overcut far relative Wayne Walker. And this will be an important benchmark because he was within about that second or so of Jordan Ross.
Yeah, so we're thinking, what's the pit stop time like? Is it 15 seconds, 12 seconds, 20 seconds, 25 seconds? It's ongoing right now, just going past 15, heading towards 20. A bunch of drivers, he is racing on track, go by him. Poynton Lewis and Barnett, who haven't made their 2nd stop. Wayne Walker here goes past him. Walker battling with Michael Whiting, and not getting past just yet. McNamara will end up behind after a more lengthy stop than I was expecting. .7, okay. So I would suggest now Wayne does have the effective race lead, but those couple of laps, being a couple of laps behind on tyres now, and still having to fight hard to get through on drivers like Michael Whiting here. Only have the tyres left to hang on. Overcut generally favourable
most places in this car that we go, and I would especially think so at a track like this, which is long and got plenty of loaded corners to worry about at various places around here.
Yeah, so only about 4 seconds in Walker's pocket versus McNamara. McNamara with 2-lap fresher tyres, and depending on how long Jordan Ross goes, he could ought to merge out a fair bit closer to Walker and have a larger tyre offset. Wayne Walker's last lap, 2:24.8. Jordan Ross's last lap at 2:24.2. So, except for the risk of being exposed a little bit on if there were to be a safety car, Jordan Ross's pace right now, you think he'd just run this as long as he can, and he's gaining time relatively. He'd increase the tyre offset later on to 24.3. So that's positive for Jordan Ross. I suspect Whiting's still headed towards a podium. Sorry, Walker's still headed towards a podium here. And so could be the win if Jordan Ross has a long stop. Could be second if Ross continues this pace, but McNamara doesn't catch him. Could be third if McNamara is able to catch him. There's not many other drivers that could take this away from Walker. Ken Latter's also worked his way through a little bit of that traffic. A few other drivers are coming in, like Chris Miller, Dean Flavel. Of course, the safety car having its long stop. Logan Barnett behind Mark Poynton and Chad Lewis, a couple of drivers that we watched battling. Mega run from Logan Barnett. Looks to the inside and gets it. Oh, no, gets in hot. Poynton strikes back. Chad Lewis will even think, how can I play into this? Too deep on the brakes for Logan Barnett.
Yeah, bit of an oops. And sucked in, you might almost say, but it's going to work out all right for now. Doesn't lose too much time, I don't think, but like here, 35 seconds off your race leader. You've got Wayne Walker, your effective leader, closing down, so they're going to drop a fair's way back in the order. Barnett seems to have the pace over Poynton, but going to have to cleanly execute to get out in front. We may also need to turn our attention to a bit more of a scrum further on down here. 4 cars involved. Add in Matt Vanderkraan off the bottom of the chart as Allman to the inside as Stewart through. Pillen? Why do they have such a massive brain fade over the name of the corner?
Oh, because it's all in French, and that triggers the fight or flight reflex in your brain. Ben Morris, Michael Stewart, Luke Allman, and Matt Vanderkraan is this group. Now, Ben Morris is the only driver that hasn't made 2 stops. I think the 2 stops from everyone behind is compulsory pit stops and not drive through penalties or anything. So really we're looking at Stewart versus Allman versus Vanderkraan. Paul Young and Scott Mackay make stops. Paul Young looking to stay inside of that top 5. Scott Mackay, I think, actually caught him a bit in the last couple of laps. Mark Poynton and Chad Lewis will come in to make their second stops, leaving Logan Barnett out in front. Oh, Ben Morris now heads for the lane, followed by Allman.
Battling up and down the order despite all of the shuffling here, making this.
Curious about where Young comes back out.
Keep tabs on
still
that.
Ahead of Scott Mackay, ahead of Michael Stewart, ahead of Matt Vanderkraan, ahead of Scott Gamble, but behind Ken Latter, Sean McNamara, even Troy Stonestreet, who's gone a little unnoticed in this race, having started out a 10th and then stopped with the first safety car, not being quite as glitzy as Wayne Walker or Scott Gamble on the strategy that they were on. But on the same strategy as them, a few cars further back in the train. He's going to move up some. Van der Meulen, Dan Hall, Travis Hunt have all made their 2 stops and are now in towards the top half of the field. Fastest on the last lap in this group was Travis Hunt, and then Dan Hall, and then Van der Meulen, so that's all compressed pretty significantly. Jordan Ross pits from the lead of the race. So in the battle between himself and Wayne Walker for the race lead, it begins to unfold. Jordan Ross again will have to drive all the way to the pit exit to find his pit crew. And his stop begins. The comparison is Sean McNamara's 29-second stop. Here's Wayne Walker. So Jordan Ross still expecting about 10 more seconds of service. Oh. Kidding me. Come back, Wayne Walker. He's back. He's back with Sean McNamara just behind him. Stop still ongoing. Now done for... No. Now done for Jordan Ross. It's going to be pretty close. You get to cut a fair chunk of La Source on the pit exit, but you won't be at speed heading down towards Eau Rouge like Wayne Walker will. Walker's got the speed to take this. Whichever way Jordan Ross goes, he can go the other. And the battle for the race lead off pit exit, it's still cold tyres for Jordan Ross. He drops in behind, but Walker's offline heading into this critical corner. Jordan Ross is going to strike back at him. No slowdown penalties here. This is so wily from Jordan Ross to give the corner up, but claim the exit. Side by side on the Kemmel Straight for the race lead. Walker's still got the inside. Jordan Ross has got more speed, and Jordan Ross leads after his pit stop by a very, very fine margin.
Oh, how about that there? Oh, Walker now, I feel like maybe trying to throw the car in a little harder to get back, but it only takes a couple of corners in these cars to really get the tyres into a happier place, and also the run down the Kemmel there, nice long run to get the pressures up too. So I get the feeling we might be seeing our order shake out here as Wayne not able to stick right on the back bumper of Ross as we continue into this lap now, and the top 3 look to be fairly solid. What exact order they'll be in, we'll have to wait and see, David. Back me even now, see Ken Latta. He's looking somewhat comfortable, but in 4th place, but 9, nearly 10 seconds off J. Ross ahead in the lead. So gonna have to maybe look behind more so than forward if things stay clean.
And after Paul Young's stop, he's just behind Troy Stonestreet with the fresher tyres. Matty Mascord down here versus Michael Whiting with Chad Lewis just behind. Lewis stopped last time by. Michael Whiting stopped last time by Mascord a little bit earlier. So in that tyre offset, the tyres should be really at their best right now after one warm-up lap. Whiting going ahead. Chad Lewis going ahead as well.
Now, Paul Young, you wish to check in with. It's looking quite good for him up past Stonestreet to 5th. And actually, I would say, yeah, that 5 laps, younger tyres than Ken Latta. Watch for him here to make a late run to try and get to the bumper of the Fisher Motorsports Camaro in front and try and snatch that place away. That seems certainly like that's a reasonable possibility here.
Yeah, so Paul Young's moved on Troy Stonestreet in the last lap. Scott Mackay also in place to do similar, so that tyre delta is stronger than I thought. Oh, no, and Troy Stonestreet's going to lose more because of that. He's overshot, and there goes Scott Mackay. Troy Stonestreet breaking too deep into Lacombe, running off the circuit and losing a spot to Scott Mackay. Just behind them, Steve Kennedy, the third most experienced driver in top split in RaceKraft V8 Vets. This is his 196th race start.
Yeah, a couple of drivers here with some very storied, long-running histories in vets. Top number of starts, I believe, over 200.
228 for Darren Goosey.
That's the one.
And that number's going to stay stagnant for a little bit, as he's not in Split 1 or racing this season. Scott McCune needs 10 to catch and overtake him. But is he making progress on that one? Had to sort the drivers alphabetically to see no Scott McCune in this. Kennedy, who'd only made the one stop so far, is in for second and hopefully final stop.
A couple of questions in our broadcast chat.
Oh, he's overshot his pit.
No, Stephen. Oh, no, Stephen. Speaking of Stevens, I might bring up another one here. Another Sandman check in here. He actually did grab some sand there on the exit over Paul Frere, Stavolo. I feel like also the corners here, they have many names just to make things a little exciting. 32nd place for our colleague who is back with us at this stage purely for the Logitech V8 Pro Invitational Series on Wednesday nights. And was busy indeed just last night at this very same circuit. Behind the microphone and now trying his hand behind the wheels. It's not looking like it's a super comfortable car to get around for him.
Well, his PB lap is ahead of most of those around him at a 225.2, so it's the race strategy and the consistency that are going to become critical. These are very strategy and racecraft heavy races, I guess, if you'll forgive the pun in that way. With the compulsory 2 stops, the safety car has obviously played into that. So your racecraft on the early laps and then how you play out the strategy is so critical, more than just it being a qualifying hot lapping competition in RaceKraft V8 Vets. Also seen in the top 5, Paul Young's gone ahead of Ken Latta. Scott Mackay's also catching Ken Latta. So that tyre delta, that tyre offset is proving so critical because Wayne Walker's dropping away from the lead and then Sean McNamara on 2 laps fresher tyres is catching him. This is Young up into 5th. Latta just behind Scott Mackay. Quickest of this group on the last lap, just behind that as well.
Fascinating developments here as to which way it's all going to work out. Probably looking at the battle for second now seems quite where our focus may need to be. Although on this particular occasion, out of the source, it would appear Walker's got himself a decent run. As long as the car's still performing up Eau Rouge Radion here, it looks like he shouldn't be under too much of a threat towards Le Com on this particular time down the Kemmel Straight.
Yeah, it's not a gigantic slipstream effect for these cars there at these pace, but if you get a good run through Radion, it just gives you that little extra boost to get alongside and to try to make the pass. But you do need to hope for a mistake going up the hill from your rival and that you can do it better. The middle sector, though, seems massive for McNamara because he's all over the rear bumper as they've exited Malmedy and gone through Rivage, and then he's gone just a tiny bit wide out of Jackie X, kicking up a tiny bit of dust. Bit of a slide through Puon there, I thought, for McNamara. Oh, Travis Hunt is all sorts of out of shape. Behind Dan Hall now, he's made the pass. Sean Vandermeulen and Mark Poynton closing and catching as well. So when did Travis Hunt become part of this?
Seemingly quietly in the background is the answer to that one there, David. Don't have anything to note of recent that shows him making an error or dropping down. I'd have to go for a scroll. His name's not sticking out anywhere. Mackay's throwing Ken Lund meanwhile up further up the road.
Yep, 5th versus 6th. Paul Young had made that move and then scampered a couple seconds away. Ladder's looking at all sorts of pressure. Troy Stone Street now as well. So Paul Young, Scott Mackay go ahead, and Ken Ladder's lost about 2 seconds. The last lap of a 2:27. He's a little out of sorts. He's rugged up. We've got a different angle of him. But up the hill, way more grip for Troy Stone Street, who is all over him by the time of the Camel Kink. And Ken Ladder just does not seem to have the grip through there. Stone Street moves ahead and into 6th place.
So looking pretty comprehensive here that overcut was the right play in this one here tonight. And going early has compromised you quite significantly in this race so far. Gap down to a 1/4 second now between Walker and McNamara.
Ben Morris with a slowdown. Sean Vandermeulen with a slowdown. I tell you, every lap it's someone, and this could be costly and decisive in this battle. Michael Stewart alongside. Oh, and just a tiny bit of a touch, but Michael Stewart was there. He's on the inside, and he goes up the spot to 22nd. Jeff Thomas and Steve Kennedy behind. Vandermeulen's the car just ahead up the road. So I think Vandermeulen would have lost out to Chris Miller and maybe even Mark Poynton, if he's now behind these guys and out of that fight that we saw with Dan Hall and Travis Hunt.
Yep, 4 to 5 lap old tyres, and he's had absolutely nothing left, it seems, in the back end to run with. And Michael Stewart's just come to the pit lane and taken another set of tyres, it would appear. So watch out for that in terms of a late charge. It would be for only 21st probably here for Stewart, as he is coming up on, pardon me, your race leader. Where is your race leader? Let's find him. He's just crossed the start finish line, so he's just started lap 31. There you go. So we 5 to go at the line. 4 guys back here that we were watching a moment ago. Once again, eyes on the battle for second. 6/10 though here off of the source. It's as if Wayne Walker, he's just saving it all for this part of the lap to protect the position, because he lets him get close or just doesn't have the speed elsewhere in the lap, particularly around No Name and Puon. But the gap reopens by the time we come back to the kennel.
It's that right-hander climbing up through Radion that is so important. You've seen when drivers just get a bit of a slide through there or are just a little bit too tentative, that it costs them, 5 to 10 k's an hour coming onto the straight, and then costs them all the way along the straight. So McNamara seems to close in a little more. Sort of these parts where you ask the car to do 2 things at once, the braking and the turning at the same time, like through a long descending corner there, or similarly, it's multiple inputs through Puon or Lafanya and these parts in the middle of the track, versus the slower stop-start stuff of the bus stop and the source.
Some of the questions there about who's done well tonight. And yeah, Mike Taliancic, no qualifying time, had to start 44th technically, yet they got mixed in and amongst the safety cars that are on the grid for RC duties. So he's up 30 to 13th place at this stage. So indeed, probably a fair shout there. Well, he has the most positions gained as a number. Similar for Sean Van der Meulen, although you can see here mired down the pack a bit. The first driver who did qualify and has made up spots significantly this race, Matty Mascord, has the most places of a driver who set a qualifying time tonight, plus 19 to get to 16th place there. And then other drivers like Matt Brunt in his Vets Split 1 debut, or in fact it might even be Vets debut period. I have to go consult the numbers afterwards, David. Up 15, and Michael Whiting, quiet, but up 13. In fact, almost exactly halfway up the field from where he started.
There's one safety car that's got more I rating than Mike Taliancic.
Well, my timing screens only show the one safety car that's been deployed this race.
Yeah. The 003 safety car has more I rating than Taliancic. So in a no qualifying time set situation where that's a tiebreaker, it might have put Taliancic between them.
Yes.
It's that second and third looking ever closer. McNamara 0.2 quicker last lap. Scott Mackay also 0.2 quicker than Paul Young.
In saying that, David, there is the option to grid by class, so should in theory be able to resolve the I rating disputes for drivers with no qualifying time.
It's not classed. It's all cars in one class.
Yeah, good point. That's a very good point. It's like, sure, you can enable that toggle, but you have to then also configure the sessions to actually make use of that. It's very true. This has gotten very feisty here all of a sudden.
It's Mark Poynton ahead of Travis Hunt, ahead of Chris Miller. Sean Van der Meulen's caught back up. Michael Stewart's new tyres are doing exactly what you'd hoped, and he's caught this group as they have battled. And the next newest tyres in the group are Mark Poynton and then Chris Miller. So we've seen a few drivers get a slide on through the second part of Pouon here. Who looks like they do it this time? Everyone looks to be within grip. And they're catching Dan Hall as well. So this could get oh so spicy for 17th through to about 22nd. And I reckon Michael Stewart's the one to watch here. The Balin Stewart Foundation Racing Camaro. Freshest tyres, made that stop. And so he should be flying momentum through all of the corners, eating them up in the traction zones, and with plenty of confidence in the brakes. This will be ably demonstrated with Blanchimont, the braking for the bus stop and the exit of the bus stop. It's just a little bit wide, didn't get the rotation he wanted into there, so he hasn't made great use of them through the high-speed corner. In the braking and the traction, maybe we'll see Michael Stewart continue to press, and we've seen Sean McNamara make the move into second place ahead of Wayne Walker. And he's well clear of Walker, so that's either happened at La Source or it's perhaps even been a slowdown for Walker heading up the hill. Yeah, it sure is. Uh-oh. Maybe we needed to see half a second before that. Maybe we need to see half a second before that.
Yeah, okay.
This is about right.
Tonight?
Yes.
That's okay, I think. That's
no,
not, I don't think.
No, that was too much, I reckon. And clearly, Wayne Walker's pulled to one side of the road here.
Yes.
And Sean McNamara has gone ahead and gone a second clear. And that's the sort of pressure lap after lap that Circuit Spa-Francorchamps elicits. Walker will not give up on it. And he's back to half a second behind Sean McNamara. Both of these guys are 6 seconds behind Jordan Ross leading this race, and Ross will have 3 laps to go when he crosses the start-finish line shortly, and so will we all on the lead lap. Most of the field is on the lead lap because this is one of the biggest race tracks we'll ever go to, 7 kilometers long. Hey, speaking of, you might have a schedule graphic, might you?
I would like to have had a schedule graphic this week, but in all the calamity that happens.
I'll just read it out. So we're at Spa-Francorchamps, 250 Ks, 200 kilometers at Road Atlanta next round, 200 kilometers at Long Beach, 150 kilometers at Portland Raceway, 200 kilometers at Road America, 150 kilometers at Hockenheim Ring, 200 kilometers at Jerez, 300 kilometers at the Bend International. So you know what? We will go to a lap longer than Spa this season.
No,
International, not GT.
Yes.
That's right. I caught myself at exactly the right time. International is the regular supercars layout. GT is the 7.7 kilometer one. Misano for 200 Ks and Okayama for 250. We had the option of the Bend full course. It's like how VIR full is the 3rd longest configuration of VIR.
Yeah, nothing like that to sort of trip you up. Yes, where it's like, so we won't call the full. Yeah, we won't call the longest layouts the full course. They can be reserved. Noble sounding grand course. And you've also got the Grand North and the Grand South, depending on how you use the internal parts.
Grand East, Grand West. But
is it East and West? Okay.
Yeah. The circuits are North, South, Full, Grand East, Grand West, and Patriot.
Yep, trust America.
Ask me which ones of those I've been on.
Have you driven the Patriot course?
I've been a passenger on the Patriot course. Thank you, Michelin Tires. It was a BMW M6.
Okay.
This is that battle midfield right here. Michael Stewart's tyres look like they might give him a bit of advantage, and Mark Poynton's dropping down big time, and so too is Ben Morris.
He's just was in a pass with Jeff Thomas. So let's see here. Self-inflicted from Morris. No, defending. And a tap.
Super slow at the apex there, though, to be honest. It's like he had the speed, they tight on the exit, and he's absolutely parked it and received a little bit of a tap, which was odd. You still can't go just hitting the guy, though. That's not how this racing works. Stewart with a slide there, coming off of Stavolo, doesn't get the run at Sean van der Meulen that he was hoping. Van der Meulen relieved of a little bit of the pressure. Chris Miller has done pretty well for himself out of all of this, though, as he's gone ahead of, as Mark Poynton has dropped back, but none of them going with Dan Hall and Travis Hunt. We've gotten about a second ahead clear there. 2 laps to go now, crossing that start-finish line.
Yeah, for a second I was going to say, they're coming to the last lap, and it's like, actually no, the race leader Jordan Ross is halfway in the lap. Out of Jackie Ickx. We'll see the white flag next time by.
Last car on the lead lap is John Gallen, and that's who's just ahead of him. I didn't do it. This is Paul Young and Scott Mackay. Same age tyres. Mackay's been a fair bit quicker the last small handful of laps.
Very, very close by the numbers when I switched to them. But Paul gets it out by a couple of tenths now. in the second half of the lap. So keep it pointing in the right way off these turns and get the power down cleanly like I'm sure he wants. This should be defendable as we're approaching the start of the final lap of this opening race of the season.
Yeah, Jordan Ross just goes over onto that now. 7 more kilometres for him on his way to victory. Tiny bit more traffic though, like he's right up behind John Gallen. Was part of safety car that brought out that lap 2 safety car. Now he has a bit of a slide coming up the hill. Not what Jordan Ross wants to be looking at. Absolutely not what Jordan Ross wants to be looking at on the final lap, with a win halfway into the bag. It's the lap down car getting super sideways and showing you all of the passenger door. Sean McNamara, after that slowdown for Wayne Walker, has remained in second place. It's looking like your podium. And interestingly, while Jordan Ross and Sean McNamara didn't stop with the first safety car, Wayne Walker, pitting with that first safety car, still looks at the podium. And remember, Scott Gamble was on that strategy and even further ahead before he got a drive-through penalty. So that could have been the winning strategy, maybe in someone else's hands. Scott Gamble will head for 10th at the moment. Jordan Ross is halfway around his victory lap, but there are so many other positions to be sorted. I don't even know where to look. Like Logan Barnett versus Mike Talyancic. Here's Michael Stewart just behind Sean Vandermeulen. Up the hill, what's the tyre difference like? Vandermeulen gets a bit of that apex curb. I think Stewart's got a pretty decent run. Stewart's got a pretty decent run, all things considered.
Not going to be there, though. So, going to have to try and find it somewhere else around the circuit.
Logan Barnett ahead of the hard charger, Mike Talyancic, Wayne Sanderson, Michael Whiting. Barnett, I think, passed Talyancic not that long ago, but there's only one corner between Jordan Ross and starting season 24. How he ended season 23, the reigning champion, continues his form and carries it over to be a winner for RaceKraft V8 Vets. The season opener Stavelot 250 from Circuit Spa-Francorchamps. Completing the podium is Sean McNamara and Wayne Walker.
And it looks like in the background is shot Paul Young. Yes, he will hang on to 4th place ahead of Scott Mackay. That there will be your top 5. Although there is some late movement down the order. Travis Hunt and Michael Stewart have both gotten entangled here at Paul Frere Stavelot, I think. So they're going to drop down the orders. Top 10 being rounded out now as Logan Barnett will hold on ahead of Mike Talyancic, who in turn holds on with Wayne Sanderson and Michael Wayne. Apologies, Scott Gamble, top 10 as we noted. Start of this last lap. This is the battle outside the 10 is... Oh, Travis Hunt, don't tell me you've run out of fuel.
A very Travis Hunt thing. Either that or he's got some really significant damage, but I reckon it's fuel. What drive have you got out the final corner? Not a whole lot. Don't have to go too far though. There's the timing line. And he just got pipped maybe by 1 or 2 there. Doesn't look, that's not the face of a man who had plenty of fuel in reserve, is it?
No, unfortunately that seems to be... Oh! Hold the phone, as we were just checking in with Travis Hunt. Last second, what has happened here? Okay, we're going to need the replays for this one here, folks, because we've had a whole lot of stuff happen in the dying stages of that one there.
I think the last lap also missing a lot of time for Gary Buckland and Matt Muggleton.
Yeah, we might quickly look at Gary Buckland's first, but then it's everything around Muggleton that we're going to have to look at closely.
Buckland, I think, might have deliberately gone the lap down. No?
J. Ross just in the background and framed for half a second. So has he just gone so slow on pit exit that he's been flagged? I think it's just pit exit. It's just been slow enough. It's flagged him for that. What we do need to look at. Matt Muggleton here at the very end of the race. Did he get a bit of a hip and oh no. He's going to gas it up. Just David Nash gets a black flag. Oh, from independent front to rear with David Kirby. Okay.
Nash versus Kirby. Nash is up the inside and looks to the outside. Oh, Kirby does it first.
And that gets David Nash a black flag and will drastically change. Well, actually, pardon me, won't necessarily drastically change his race result because of how things are going to end up. But that definitely messes with things for him a bit there. And that is going to do it from here tonight, I would suggest. And we can go to our race results.
Yeah, I think for David Nash, it's actually going to move him to the end of the lead lap, but still ahead of everyone who was a lap down to him, which in the end was a couple of cars. Jordan Ross with a 6-second victory ahead of Sean McNamara. Wayne Walker with the lap 2 pit strategy behind the safety car, taking that to a third place finish. Paul Young and Scott Mackay and Troy Stone Street, Matt Vanderkran, Ken Latter, Dean Logsdale and Scott Gamble, the top 10. Then Logan Barnett, Mike Talyancic, Wayne Sanderson, Michael Whiting, Chad Lewis, super close times there, 11th through to 15th, with Matty Mascord, Dan Hall, Chris Miller, Sean Vandermeulen and Mark Poynton. The top half of the field, 29 positions gained for Sean Vandermeulen in that one. Michael Stewart, 21st in the end, then Stephen Kennedy, Jeff Thomas, Stacey Boyd, Ben Morris, Luke Allman, Travis Hunt on the coughs and splutters. Actually, 3/10 stayed ahead of Matt Brunt, got to that timing line. Flynn stoning it, and then Dean Flavel and Greg Sharp. Steve Grumley, 31st. Ray Smith, Stephen Clark, the Sandman, David Nash, Matt Muggleton, Andrew Rushworth, Damian Cairns, David Kirby, Gary Buckland. So I'm not actually seeing Nash penalised for that one. Even stayed ahead of some other cars that were on the lead lap. And then you saw Christian Smart, the first car off the lead lap, then John Gallen and Jim Caparonis. Ricky Hyde, 14 laps down. Is that going to be a classified finisher? I think not. I think Justin McLean and Stewie Hall also won't be classified finishers. Ricky Hyde completed 23 laps. How many was needed to be a classified
27,
finisher?
27.
Oh, just a couple short for Ricky Hyde. Promoted to Split 1 for this season.
So yeah, fascinating note there indeed. The black flag hasn't triggered. You're right, because you should be down, David.
Maybe it was after he crossed the checkered flag.
Oh, pardon me, it was David Kirby who got it. Wrong David. That's why. My bad there, Mr. Haynes. I'm giving you really bad information tonight. So that is why David Kirby is some 30 seconds behind David Nash, despite still getting across the line in front of him. So, with all that said and done, and everything that's happened tonight, we can now, I think, turn our attention to maybe a quick chat with a couple of our drivers here from the top of the town to wrap things up. And who might you have brought in first?
Well, the podium joins us, and we start with third place, Wayne Walker. You're the best driver on that strategy of pitting underneath the safety car. Track position, it was a risk, but it looked like a pretty good strategy, except for maybe the tyres going away from you on the longer stints.
Yeah, I think for me, it was probably the best call. I think if I'd have stayed out, I would have ended up probably a few spots further back, I think. But yeah, for me, I didn't have too much problems getting through the traffic. But yeah, the tyres towards the end were starting to get a bit slippery.
Any consolation, I think I saw everyone at some point get a slowdown on the Camel Straight after those really difficult looking track limits up Radion.
Yeah, it's so hard to not get a slowdown up there, and it just happened that McNamara was close enough to be able to pass me, so I just sort of let him go and cleared the slowdown. But still, third, I couldn't really have hoped for much better.
I think that's smart stuff in that circumstance. You're still looking at the podium, trying to race cleanly, accumulate the bonus points wherever they may lie, and it's wide open as far as the championship's concerned in this new season. But maybe up top there's one consistent face.
Yeah, Jordan, I think still got a couple of tenths a lap on nearly everybody. So yeah, we're gonna have to work hard to chase him down.
Every season always brings some iRacing updates, and this car hasn't been completely spared from that. Driving wise, does it, at least on a fixed setup, still feel the same?
Yeah, I can't notice any difference really from the time it come out, I don't think.
And on a fixed setup, those ARBs are locked at a pit stop, right?
Oh, I'm not sure. I haven't even tried to change them in a pit stop.
Well, maybe that's some research for both of us to do before round 2 next week. Congratulations and thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Well, we'll continue our way up the podium, Dan, and maybe you can speak to Sean McNamara, who finished second.
Suppose I can indeed, and welcome back, Sean. Good to see you back out on track once again, and also a good result for you here once again.
Thank you, Mr. Yeaman. Yeah, it's good to be back. Bloody good to be back.
So I guess, yeah, sort of up the front most of the night. Like Jordan, you chose to stay out front to kick things off and keep that track position. And it looks like at the end of the race, that really paid off for you by having to pit later and having tyres towards the end of the race. That certainly looked like the best strat. Was that a plan or just how that played out tonight for you?
I was hoping Jordan would box. He didn't, so I thought, you know what? I knew it was... You probably would have just had to save a smidge of fuel. And I'm not a fuel saver. But yeah, once he stayed out, I was like, bugger it, I'll stay out. And it's sort of... obviously, it put Scotty and those guys into a bit of traffic as well. So I thought with a bit of clear air, we'd just be able to push on. But Wayne made it work really well. So, kudos to him. And Scotty picked up that drive-through, unfortunately, so I think he would have been right there as well. But it was pretty cool to have those two strategies at play. But yeah, it was nice just to run around. I struggled switching on the car and the cold tyre. Sort of safety car restart. Jordan just blew my doors off, and it was the same on fresh tyre out of the pit. So I couldn't turn the car on until like lap 4. So I was just losing too much time.
It's a fascinating sort of observation that this car, and the cars before it was sort of known to have been pretty quick straight out of the box, but you're noting there that it took a little longer for you to get it feeling right. And I guess in that case, if we look at different tracks coming up on the schedule, that going to be something you're going to want to work on this season and try and adapt, because shorter laps at other tracks might mean more laps where you're still trying to get to the pace?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's just one of my traits is I just don't use that fresh tyre real well. You watch Jordan come out and bang he goes, and same for Wayne and Scotty and all those guys. So yeah, it's something I've got to work on. Just not sure what I'm not doing right. I feel like I'm pushing, but yeah, I just lack those sort of 5-6 tenths those first couple of laps, and you can't give that away at any level. So yeah, we'll work on it. Road Atlanta next week, so that's a belter of a track, and you need to be on pretty quickly as soon as you're out. So it should be an absolute hoot.
Yeah, fingers crossed indeed. Looking forward to how that plays out here with the Vets. And with that, mate, thank you very much for joining us. We'll let you go now. Anyone else you want to shout out before you sign off for the night?
Yeah, look, thanks to you guys. Great to see SimSpeed back this year or season. Well done to Wayne. Had a great race with him, and well done to Jordan. Course sponsors, just quickly, of course, RaceKraft Simulations, RSW Graphics, Racing Ears Custom Ears Protection, and Track Day Track School. Thank you very much, guys.
Not a problem, and thank you very much for joining us. And well done once again. All the best for the next couple of weeks in the season in general.
Cheers, guys. Thank you.
And that'll leave us just one final driver to speak to here, Mr. Haynes, and I'll leave it to you to bring in our race winner. He defends the past 2 season titles now in a row. One Jordan Ross. In fact, I'm not saying that. Oh, no, you did it right as I was thinking maybe I should grab him instead. But there we are. We'll bring him in now, and I hand to you, David.
Yeah, race winner Jordan Ross joins us. We've already discussed with Sean and Wayne the different approaches of strategy that they took. You were in the same camp as Sean, and I guess a big track like Spa, the fresh tyres were strong, clearing the traffic and track position relatively simple.
Yeah, it's pretty easy to pass on this track. If you're, if you're sort of coming through on much fresher tyres, the degradation's quite high, so it's not so, like, track position's probably not so critical as it is at a tighter track like Belle Isle or whatever. So just tried to. I knew Sean was going to go for the undercut when he pitted early, and I just thought I wasn't sure how much advantage I had over him after I lost that time in the second stint. Coming through a bit of traffic, but mate, worked out in the end, so good to kick off the season with a win.
Asked the question of Wayne, and he wasn't so sure, but does the handling of these cars in this most recent iRacing build feel pretty similar? You're approaching it the same way?
Yes and no. I'm sure that helps you. There's certain characteristics of it that feel very similar, but in a lot of ways it's very different. Probably the biggest thing I've noticed with this car is you've got to get all your turning done and really square up the exits more than you had to do in the last version of the supercar. So and fortunately it sort of probably works a little bit better for my driving style, to square off the corners a little bit more. So yeah, that's what I think about them.
So you're 2 in a row champion. You've kicked it off incredibly strong for the new season. Is that the way you're gonna keep on going for this season with the tracks that we've got ahead of us?
Yeah, I'm not sure what next week is. The boys were just telling me we've got road Atlanta, I think, next week. So that'll be cool. That's a cool little track. I think it's in Scops this week, so we'll all do a few laps, I'm sure, and everyone will be dialed in. So yeah, looking forward to that one. And yeah, mate, we'll try and turn up every week and have a crack. And there's lots of names in here. There's a few fast guys in here that have joined up this season, which is good to see. Scotty Gamble's back, and Kenny's back, and we got Paul Young and a couple of guys joined in, and Tally. So should be a pretty competitive season.
Yeah, it looks at a handful of new names. Certainly Gamble on that strategy alternate to yours. Without the penalty he received, he would have been, I think, in that final stint even closer to you than Wayne Walker was.
Yeah, I did look at that because I was interested, because I knew that he took the early safety car. Yeah, so he finished 39 seconds behind. He got a drive through, which is about 15. So yeah, probably would have been in that top 5 somewhere. So probably I know that Wayne took the early safety car, so I think Wayne probably made it work a little bit better overall, but I'm not sure if Scott got caught in some traffic and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, when that safety car comes out, you don't really know what to do. I was in 2 minds even as I approached the SC1 line, so I just stayed out and thought, well, just see how it shakes out, but worked out all right.
My thinking is it comes down to the value of track position. So I think at Long Beach you'd have pitted, but here with the long straight slipstreaming and passing opportunity, you think, no, it's not so much about that. So yeah, that's another track we'll be heading back to in this season, and some returning tracks, some new ones. We look forward to seeing you there. And who would you like to thank?
Just all the competitors, you guys for turning up each week and doing it. Without you guys, there wouldn't be a series, and obviously all the organisers over at Vets. And yeah, shout out to Sean. It was a mega race. It was probably not so fun to watch, but it was fun to drive because we were just trading lap times, and that's as a driver, that's what you enjoy the most. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Jordan. And you won't have to wait too long for your next dose of RaceKraft V8 Vets action. It is at Road Atlanta in a week's time. 200 kilometers of racing there. What other orders of business do we have to tidy up? Are we going for a Chubby Buns Burgers driver of the day this season?
I do believe we are. So it's very much part of the parcel that is required for this one tonight. So
I'm going for a debutante then.
Okay, fair call. So
that puts it between, I think, Paul Young and Maddie Mascord for me.
Paul Young gaining a spot to 5th, but staying towards the front. Yeah, or the plus 26 for Van der Meulen. Yeah, that's plus 19.
We have to pick one?
I think technically, yes. One is probably what they're after. Just to make life a little easier. I would possibly say Mascot on the grounds of did set a qualifying time, whereas Van der Meulen didn't.
Let's give it to Mascot then.
It's a pretty close call. So split hairs either way, really, at the end of the day.
Yeah, I've made my mind up. I reckon I'm firm on that.
Well, sounds good to me then. So here we are, your first Chubby Buns Burgers driver of the day for season 24. Congratulations to Matty.
Yep, the V8 Vets debutante. Qualifying in 35th, racing to 16th, having an overall pretty clean race on a day where we saw some really talented drivers. Scott Gamble, Dan Hall, others pick up penalties. Mascord dodges that and moves into 16th and scores some good points on debut. Well, I've been David Haynes with Daniel Yeaman. We apologise again, the hurdles we had to jump through initially with this broadcast before we got ourselves rolling and back in gear for this new season. And we hope you'll join us on SimSpeed TV for round 2 in not too long. RaceKraft V8 Vets brought to you by RaceKraft, LGC Images, Logitech G, Nova Sim Sports, Player One, Sim Gear, Parramatta, Isuzu Ute, and SudSpeed. Chubby Buns Burgers. We'll see you next time out and next Thursday in a week's time at Road Atlanta.